Tonight, we're not going to be doing a full live episode like we normally would be, but we do have something special for you. In 2021, we had a special guest come on, and that was Crystal Steers. We had her come on at this same time of the year, which is about a week away from Thanksgiving if you're watching this live. And in this episode, she talks about gratitude. I hope you enjoy this episode. Place in the comments what you thought about it and any takeaways that you feel that you could apply in your day-to-day routines, especially in the coming week and throughout the year.
Our guest today is like Steve Martin on SNL. She's a frequent visitor and a friend. She's the founder and CEO of Chasing Happiness. She loves to remind us to live life to the fullest. Please welcome to the Teachers Pep Rally, our happiness guru, Crystal Steers.
You guys are awesome.
Oh, I had a smile on my face all day knowing that we were going to be talking to you.
Aww.
You have gone through quite the journey. So let's just go ahead and open up that can of worms and talk about it. Can you share with us your recent journey moving basically from one place to another?
Yeah. So I am coming from Southern Ontario. So for those who don't know exactly what that is, Niagara Falls, Toronto, those sorts of places. I am now in Halifax, Nova Scotia, which is a different time zone, as we were all just talking about. I am so far east, I have entered a different time zone, a time zone that does not exist in the United States. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey. And we drove, so I made this move with my mother. And we drove from Southern Ontario to Halifax, which was a 5-day journey.
5 days?
5 days.
Yes. So here's the thing people don't understand about Canada. It's a big country. And so it takes a long time to drive out of certain places because our provinces are giant.
I'd say so, yes.
And I'm thinking, teacher friends, take a moment in the classroom, pull down that old map that you've got hanging up there. You haven't looked at in a while. Let's look up Canada and follow where our friend Crystal went and where she is now. I think that would be
I love that.
So did you have to actually drive around Maine, or did you get to cut across Maine?
No. So here's the thing. You can cut across Maine, but because of COVID, the borders were still closed at that point. They've just opened within the last week, right? So we actually had to drive up out of Southern Ontario into sort of where you get into Northern Ontario up by Ottawa and then into Quebec and then through Quebec and north all the way up the edge of Quebec and Maine and around into New Brunswick. That's part of the reason why it took so long, because we couldn't cut across the United States because you guys wouldn't let us in.
All right. So, and if everybody that's listening, everybody that's listening to this, picture in your mind, if you're in the United States, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Vermont. That's what and one maybe more about Massachusetts and Vermont. That's what you have to drive around those two states to get to where you are, which is crazy. It's not like
so I went north and east and further north and then further east. Yes, it was quite the journey.
Oh wow. 5 hours.
So
5 days.
Do you, Pete and Fred and Letitia, as teachers, do you ever have that experience with a kid who sees you outside of the school and they have like this crazy freakish reaction?
Food store.
Yeah.
What are you doing here?
Yeah, we're not supposed to leave the building, right? We live there. That's
right.
our home. Well, Crystal, just because students think that, teachers do move, and especially after COVID and things, we're seeing a lot of people make these kinds of changes. So before we get really into the nitty-gritty of stuff, I wanted to ask if you had any tips for anyone thinking about making this kind of change since you just went through it.
Yeah. So realistically, if you're looking to make big changes in life, there's a few things you need to do. And I sort of made a little list because you know me and I love lists. I have sticky notes. I have sticky notes all over around here because I made you some lists today.
Listicle.
The first suggestion, the first piece of advice is make all the plans you want. Some people are planners, and that's okay. If you need to spend 3 weeks researching a plan, go ahead and do it. But ultimately, you need to be okay when things fall apart. It's going to happen. Something is not going to go according to plan. And I promise you that does not negate the whole experience. It just means one thing has fallen off track. You can get everything back in the plan and in line with the plan if you're a planner, but you need to be okay when things don't go exactly according to plan. You also need to know the risks. Making a move, especially like the move I just did, requires a lot of risk. I have come to a place I've never actually been before in my entire life. I had no idea what the weather was like. I had no idea what the people were like. I made this choice because I was ready for that change. And if you're someone who can't handle change, then know the risks of that. Know how you need to prepare to emotionally handle whatever you're going to be going through. And it's okay if you have a backup plan. It's 100% okay to have a backup plan. If you think, I may not be okay with this, that's fine. What are you going to do when it turns out not to be okay? Don't walk into it assuming that's going to be the case. But if you feel better and you can feel more secure by having that backup plan, go ahead and do it. There's nothing wrong with that. Know that you can handle anything. We as human beings have gotten away from this mindset of we can handle it. We can take on whatever comes our way because we now live in this society where things are so easy. We don't have to worry about, shelter. We don't necessarily have to worry too much about food in most places. We like easy and we've forgotten that we're capable of hard things. Most of all, trust that you as an individual know what's best for you. If you want to make a big change in your life and everyone around you thinks you're crazy, don't get me wrong. My family absolutely thinks I'm crazy. That's okay. It's 100% okay. You have to trust in your own instincts and your own ability to be able to move forward. Those are the most important things when you're talking, whether it's a big change like a move or a career change. Maybe you're a teacher and you want to get out of teaching. Maybe you're someone who is doing something else, but you want to get into teaching. Big changes like that come with risk. They come with a lot of challenges, but they can be really rewarding too.
I'm also thinking about students. I mean, I saw someone posted something on Twitter today saying, what would be a great exit question for a middle schooler who's leaving mid-year? So that list you just gave would be great to share with a kid who's moving because they don't necessarily get a choice or a word maybe in that decision. So I think that that's a great list for our kids too.
100%. And if you have students or kids in your life who are facing big changes, it can be really emotional for them because 9 times out of 10, they don't get a say, right? These are kids whose parents are saying, this is how life has to change and you're going to have to adapt. And that can be scary. So giving them the space to feel however they feel, but also being able to teach them, we're going to face this together. You are not alone. Anything that comes up, you can handle it because you have support systems in place. And of course, there are kids in some places that don't have those. So if you as an educator or someone in that child's life can be that for them, bonus, because they're going to need it.
I see Letitia kind of just
I
smiling.
love Crystal.
I love you right back.
This is such good stuff.
It is. And so I'm also sitting here thinking about, I don't know how you guys feel about the word home, but the definition of home, what that means to you. Is it a physical place? Is it a feeling? Is it what you make of it? Crystal, how would you define home? Because you basically just moved from one home to another.
I did. And this is not the first time I've done this. For people who are listening and don't know me, 5 years ago, I did this. I moved from Southern Ontario to Edmonton, which is in the opposite direction in Canada, is a little bit further away, actually. So I like change personally. I embrace change. But part of the reason I can do that is because for me, home isn't a specific place on a map. It's a feeling. It's a feeling I have within myself. It's a feeling I create with my chosen family. It's a feeling I create with the people who I allow into my life. Home is not a physical pin on a map. I can buy furniture anywhere. I can sleep anywhere. I've slept on airport bathroom floors. Like that does not matter to me. What matters is the feeling I get in a place, the energy I draw from the environment that I'm in, and my feeling of safety and security. That's what home is for me.
like that. You know what? I'm trying to just think. Were we just discussing this past weekend? Somebody had talked about the definition of home, and it was very similar to what you just framed it up as. But it's funny how we get attached to that space, though, too. You know, and we consider it home. But I think you're right. It's home is, you know, it's not just where our stuff is. It's where we are. You know, wherever we are. So that's a good way to look at it. It's a hard thing to look at, though, isn't it? I mean, it's not easy to just say, well, I think I'm just going to go ahead and move over there now. And especially, you know, when you plant roots. So I give you credit for that. You remind me of the military families that I've known over the years and how, you know, from the Marine Corps perspective, you have to move every 3 years.
Sure.
And with that, I got to know my friends who had children who had to move within the schools. And they, as I got to know them as they got older, they were very, for the most part, very well-adjusted people because they got to learn how to communicate with different people and kind of how to learn to acclimate and make friends. And
That was me, Fred. I was a Navy rat, so I kind of
right.
get that a little bit. The other thing I was going to ask, I want to see each of you, what makes something feel like home to you, whether it's in your classroom, at your actual house, like what is it that you do that you can think of? One thing that makes you feel like something is home or homey.
cutting the grass just never
Okay.
stops.
That feels like home. Okay. How about you, Letitia?
Cutting the grass.
You too?
I love it. No, not me, buddy. Oh no, I don't. That's that homie for me. I would like it cut, but I won't do it. You know, I think for me, peace is my big, what grounds me and what anchors me. Just peace. And I think that comes from me, you know, from us, right? It's kind of what Crystal said. It's really where we are, the energy, all of that. I was recently watching Princess Di, that whole docuseries on CNN, which is fascinating. I'm obsessed with the royals. But, you know, you see this beautiful castle. I mean, just with acres and acres and acres. And the thought of her, and of course, my mouth is agape, right? Because that's like, now that's a pad, you know, like that's a house, right? And just the thought of her being so lonely and sad in there, you know, with all of that space, all those beautiful pieces of furniture and history, and for her to be so lonely. So I think home starts with us. And for me, it's peace, just really cultivating peace wherever I go.
Yeah. And I feel like you can find that whether you're in an actual physical space or outside, right? How about you, Pete?
Yeah. So I grew up, the ocean, Atlantic Ocean was my backyard.
Wow.
I saw the ocean every single day until I moved away in my adulthood. So whenever I would drive around New Jersey, New York, or whatever, I never felt lost because I always knew the ocean was to the east of me. And that was my comfort zone. That was my place. Moving to the Atlanta area, we're quite landlocked. And it's taken a long time for me to be able to finally call this place home. I would judge it by how comfortable I am driving around, knowing I could wander and not get lost. And it took a long time to get there. The urban sprawl here is enormous. It just goes on and on and on. It took a long time for me to get comfortable. And I realized the comfort came from, as I'm driving, oh, there's that place that I went with my family. There's that place I took the chorus and we performed. There's the place we did a class trip. And it goes back to the people. It takes time for me to take root in a place and grow those experiences with people. And then it will become home for me. It's not a physical thing. It's the connections with people for me.
That's nice. How about you, Crystal?
So for me, a lot of it is just the feeling in the moment. Like you guys are home, right? One of my many things that is home. You guys are one of those things. I've been looking forward to chatting with you guys for more than a week because that's the feeling, right? And so for me, it's something that I can create by the people that I surround myself with, the places that I choose to go. most of us are fans of Disney. Like when I get off the plane in Orlando, there's something about hitting the airport that just feels like home. And that has nothing to do with the fact that, it's Florida. It has to do with, I know the feeling that comes along with going to Disney. I know the people I'm going to interact with. Even if I've never met them personally before, I know the energy of that environment, right? And I think for most people, everything we've talked about, and Erin, you're going to tell us yours in a second. I think most people always bring it back to whatever the feeling is, whether it's safety, security, warmth, coziness, however you want to label it, there is something comforting about how you define home. And that's personal to each and every person.
That's good. And you made me think about the shirt that most people have probably seen. I don't think Disney originally did it, but now now they're selling it. I think it was an outside artist that did it with the silhouette of the castle. I don't know if it's from Disney World or Disneyland, and it says home on it. And it's done very well because us huge Disney fans, can relate to what you just said, Chris. When you get there, there's just a comfort. There's a sense of belonging or excitement or whatever it is that it does. It feels like another home. It feels like another home. Fred, were you going to say something?
I bought it.
You bought the shirt?
Yeah.
Castle.
That was my wife's gift. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
There you go.
That's
So
just
mine,
big
I'm sitting here
letters.
thinking as I'm listening to all of you and I'm just nodding my head. Yes, yes, yes. There's one thing that I've been sitting here trying to put my finger on what it is, but it's like a coziness factor. If I can feel like I can find a space to kind of curl up and read a book or just be in my thoughts or have a nice visit with someone, that to me is home. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the smell of certain foods that remind me of home, whether that's something from my childhood or just something that I like to have, whether it's hot chocolate or soup or something. But so I guess kind of smells, and then whatever that sense is where you just kind of feel like you can just get all comfy somewhere. That's fine.
Yeah. When I said though cutting grass, I mean I was being flippant, but at the same time, I was just thinking about I would cut the grass at my mom's house, which is the house that I grew up in. I would cut the grass here at my home that I'm living in now. But it's always been that my comfort zone is the puttering. I think that's the better way to put it. I love to find myself busy around the yard, and that's kind of like, I guess that's my version of cozy in a way. I just because I'm at the computer so much, 'cause I'm in this tech space so much. I love to get dirty with my hands. I love this. When my smell is a little bit more sharper, I love the smell of the dirt on me, like my hands and stuff like that. That's a very calming thing for me, and that's what I think of when I think of home. So the smell of grass and the smell of landscaping and stuff like that. Now, I'm not offering to cut your grass, but I'm saying I like to cut my grass.
Darn, I thought that's what you were offering, but
Right. 'Cause I'm like, I'm willing to pay for a flight. Putter away, buddy. Putter away.
That could become a thing.
Right.
So I
I
don't know
love
if-
that.
I don't know if you guys noticed there was kind of a pattern in what the thing that was common amongst all of us was there was a comforting factor whenever we were thinking about what feels like home. So this kind of transitioned nicely into something that I'm looking forward to talk to Crystal about. And that's our educators are spread so thin. There's a lot of emphasis on social and emotional health. But I think because there's such a need and because there's not time to truly plan it out, we need a little help. It seems like it's worse this year than it was even last year. So can you give our listeners some things that we can start doing right now to help us find that balance and support our mental health and well-being?
100%. And the very first one is going to be spend time with your feelings. People hate when I tell them that. But here's the reason that I'm telling you that. Y'all, especially as educators, are stressed out. You need to acknowledge that you are stressed out. Otherwise, you're just trudging through onto the next thing. You're not taking the time to stop, slow down, and actually be in the feeling. And I get it. You're busy. You got a lot going on between family and side hustles and everything else that you're dealing with. But it's really important to acknowledge where you are so that you don't end up in mental burnout. Because the more you just trudge through, the closer and the quicker you get to that mental burnout. And let's face it, the holidays is chaos for like 99% of the people you meet, right? And add that on top of already feeling like you're close to burnout, and you will not survive emotionally through the holiday season. So spend time with your feelings, even if that only means, 5 minutes at the end of the day, you sit down and you process, whether it's in a journal or whether it's just mentally for yourself. You sit down and you process, what? Today I was really stressed out because this happened. Okay, if it happens again, how can I handle it differently so that I don't feel that way? Maybe for you, that's calling a friend at the end of the day, or while you're driving to the grocery store and the kids are still at home, so that you have someone to talk to about all of those things. It doesn't matter. Whatever works for you is totally okay, but find a way to actually sit and process and be in those feelings. Get creative. I am telling you, I cannot even begin to tell you the amount of research that is coming out right now in regards to how creativity is actually beneficial, not just for our physical health, but for our mental health. Creativity is one of those things that most people think, especially the older we get, we think we're not really creative. I don't live in a creative space. Someone like Pete to me seems creative, not myself, right? And see, Pete's shaking his head. He's like, I'm not creative. This is what happens. We as adults,
I agree with you.
We think we're not creative people. Let me tell you, there's not a single person I have met on the face of this planet so far who is not creative in some way. Whether that's you're creative in the kitchen, you're creative creating art, you're an actor, you're a creative coder, you're a creative author, whatever that happens to be, you can create anything. Anything. It doesn't matter what it is. If that's painting, great. If it's drawing, great. If it means creating a garden, great. That's still creativity. Live in some creativity. It doesn't matter if you only have 5 minutes a week to do it. Spend 5 minutes a week doing it. It makes such a huge difference. The very last thing is something I talk about regularly, and I will continue to talk about this until the day I die. You need to schedule what I call me time. We take our schedules so seriously. From this time to this time, I have school. From this time to this time, the kids have this appointment. I have this appointment I need to get to. But we do not seriously take ourselves as that important. We do not book in the hours in every day, every week to spend time with ourselves, doing whatever we want. I challenge every listener of this podcast for the next week, schedule at least 1 hour, whether that's 5 minutes a day, whether it's 15 minutes a day, whatever works for you. 1 hour in the whole week that's just for you. Put your phone in a different room, shut off every device that you can, spend time with yourself. That is such a huge thing in order to rebalance yourself. If that means you go outside for a walk and you leave your phone at home, go ahead and do that. If it means you take your phone, but you put it on do not disturb, go ahead and do that. I'm not saying you can't have technology. What I'm saying is find something that works for you so that you can reset and refocus and regain some of the energy that you've slowly been depleting yourself of.
That's a good
I mean, this stuff is, I can't with you, Crystal. But you know what, one of the thing that really encouraged me, Crystal, was, first of all, guys, I don't know about you or our listeners, but I thought we would have been in a different space right now, right? And then Delta came and said, oh, no, not yet. So I found myself kind of having to reboot, if you will. And so when I learned that you were taking this trip, I just thought it was amazing that, okay, I feel like she's rebooting. She's like, you know what? I've had enough of COVID. I'm out of here. And it really encouraged me. And that's what I really want to encourage our listeners tonight to do. Maybe we all need a reboot to kind of revisit some of these things. I love this idea of home, the simplicity of it, right? The reconnecting with what home is, just spending me time, sitting in feelings. It's going back to basics, just so that we can thrive this next leg of the pandemic. So thank you for sharing. And I'll say, Crystal, even as you were traveling, Crystal sent me some pictures, and you would have thought I was on the trip with her. It was like, yes, this is beautiful. So just encouraging each other when we're experiencing something, shoot someone a text, share your experience with someone, even if it's with a picture, just so that we can continue to fill each other up and encourage each other. So thank you for your courage and rebooting us tonight.
100%. Look, that aspect of our lives is so unbelievably important because some people live in different comfort zones, right? Not everybody is comfortable enough, especially since we're still in a pandemic, to move to a totally different place with people they've never met before. And like, it's a lot, right? So if you're not comfortable with that, but you miss traveling, but you're not comfortable leaving your house, somebody who's traveled, go get pictures from them, have them message you every day. There are alternatives so that you can get the same feeling without putting yourself in a situation where you feel at risk. But we all need the reboot. We all need to reset. We are no different. I have said this before, and I will say it again. You are no different than your cell phone. Your cell phone needs to be shut off every once in a while. So do you.
I've lived true to that since you told me that.
Yes. Yes.
Wait,
I watch squirrels now.
I love it.
That's a t-shirt. Fred, what did you want to say?
No, I'm writing that down.
I watch squirrels.
I love it. I do. It's the wonder. Remember she taught us about the wonder?
Oh yeah, I remember.
It is actually kind of fascinating to watch them.
It's nuts, but I get it.
You're also
No, you said something. I didn't. So she was talking about putting the phone down, and then you said something, but I wasn't tracking what you meant. You said you do practice that, Erin.
Yeah. Well, she had talked about, what do you do with your cell phone when the battery's running low?
Oh, okay.
You charge it. And so that was a perfect analogy for me to be like, oh, yeah, why do I let myself run out of complete steam? Right.
Right.
Doesn't make any sense. In fact, I was texting my mom today because I could tell she's getting all ready for the Thanksgiving and running herself ragged. And I said, Mom, you need to slow down, take it easy. Because then by the time it's time to kind of have fun and be with family, you're just going to be too tired and it's not going to be worth it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Fred.
No, please go ahead.
That's the thing, right? If we get ourselves into a position where we are so unbelievably exhausted because we're trying to make it to that next experience, we don't enjoy that next experience. We miss out on the beauty of that because we're so exhausted. So why on earth do we keep living this way is my question to people.
Yeah. And so this kind of makes a nice little segue. There are themes that we're talking about: home, being comfy, being with family, finding ways to be creative. Thanksgiving in America is coming up here, Crystal, and we always have our favorite Canadian come to remind us of ways to voice our gratitude, because it's so important for us to do, right? To find happiness in life, I think, and for mental health. So do you have some ideas about ways that we can voice our gratitude?
100%. Of course, I have tons of ways. And first and foremost is just being grateful for where you are in the moment, which sounds silly, right? And we as adults are constantly critical of these sentences that we hear. But if you actually stop and think about it, you are grateful to wake up in the morning and take another breath, right? You are grateful to have another day, whether you acknowledge it or not. You are grateful to be able to go outside. You are grateful that there is food in your fridge. There is always something that you can stop and be grateful for. And I'm not saying like you have to be happy and positive all the time, but what I am saying is on the days when you struggle, when you find it hard to be grateful, find the little things. I'm grateful right now that I have moved to Halifax because Halifax does not have any snow, but Southern Ontario does. Little things like that can help you through those sort of more difficult days or the more difficult times. And here's the thing about gratitude. You can practice it any way you choose to. You can tell your neighbors you're grateful that they're there for you whenever you need them. You can tell your kids you're grateful. You could just be grateful in your own mind. You don't have to share it with anybody. You can have any kind of practice you want. I have a gratitude journal, which I think we've talked about previously on my other episode. That's not something you have to do. If you want a gratitude jar, do a gratitude jar. If for you, it's writing on a whiteboard at the end of the day, I'm grateful this happened today, or I'm grateful tomorrow is going to bring this. One thing is really all it takes to start the process. And it doesn't matter how you build on it, if you build on it, but constantly checking your attitude, your mindset about that is super important, because don't get me wrong, I have a gratitude journal. I have a jar around here somewhere that I haven't unpacked yet. I got whiteboards, I got sticky notes, but I still have days where I feel like, oh my God, what am I doing? Have I lost my mind? Like, what is going on? We all have them, and that's okay too. Be grateful that you're a human being with all of those feelings, because it's totally okay for you to have them all. It doesn't matter how you start, but I can tell you a life of gratitude, and I'm not talking a lifetime of gratitude, but a life that has gratitude in it is going to change a whole bunch of things about you, because we are now doing scientific studies around gratitude and how that not just changes our mindset, but actually physiologically changes our bodies. And there is science that shows not only does it lower your blood pressure, your heart rate, boost your immune system, it also helps for you to actually be more resilient in life. COVID came along. Not a single one of us thought we were ever going to deal with this kind of a thing. People who have gratitude practices through this are doing way better emotionally than people who haven't. Studies are showing that now. And there's some great studies going on about how this particular moment in time for us as human beings is really going to determine how we move forward based on mindset. And gratitude is one of those really big pieces of mindset.
I'm sitting here thinking about a couple things. So I'm going to talk about the first one that's coming to mind. I love that you have a jar for gratitude. I think that because there's something about writing it out and then physically putting it in a space where it's being held. I usually at night, I think I share with you guys at night. And this all started when I had it was my first year where it was just beyond tough. I found myself coming home and crying a lot, wondering how I was going to get through the next day. And then the next day you get up and you do it again. And I started at night before I went to sleep. I was like, it's not that bad, Erin. It's not that bad. And so I would just start saying all the things that I was thankful for that day. And as I kept doing that, what it did was as I was going to sleep, I was like, yeah, see, it's not that bad. Think of all these things that you just listed that you're thankful for. And it really helped me get through the end of that year. And strangely enough, this is not to pat my back, but it's just to kind of talk to you out there if you're having one of those years. I ended up being picked as teacher of the year that year. And that was, that was a struggle year for me. So it just kind of shows you that gratitude does help you be resilient. Like you said, Crystal, I can relate.
And I think to that point, I'm sorry, Fred, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say that, when you begin to practice it more often, you will find that it becomes almost like remote. I mean, I remember, as crazy as this sounds, having, healing from COVID, like in the midst of having the virus and just being grateful, of course, not for the virus, right? But grateful that I had a clean bed, to rest in while I recovered, that I had all the medication, that I had healthcare and Gatorade and water. You start thinking about, homeless people who are sick and they're dealing with this ill on the streets, so I think that gratitude, the more we practice and it becomes a lifestyle, we'll find that it just begins to become part of our DNA almost automatic.
You and looking forward. It's a good practice. It's a very healthy practice.
Absolutely.
And gratitude is this one thing that it doesn't matter what kind of a position you're in life. You could be homeless and still be grateful. You could be somebody who lives in a mansion and still find something to be grateful for. Every human being on the face of the planet is capable of gratitude. And it creates this wonderful thing. And I'm not saying bad things don't happen, and 100%, like, you can acknowledge that and you can feel that. But the difference with gratitude is your brain reminds you that even in the bad, there is still good in my life. My whole life is not horrible. My whole life is not wrong. My whole life has not, imploded in some way. You constantly need that reminder as a human being, because sometimes we get so deep in the dirt that we can't see the other side. So with gratitude, you feel less isolated because you remind yourself that, oh, I do have friends. I do have people who text me randomly just to reach out. You feel less isolated, which is huge during COVID, right? Huge during the holiday season, because so many people feel alone during the holiday season. Gratitude is this amazing thing that doesn't really cost us anything, but totally has a bearing on every aspect of our lives, because our brains are hardwired to actually give us a good experience. It's why people forget bad things that happen in their lives. Your brain is hardwired to kind of get rid of some of that, because you as a species need to keep moving forward. You need to want to live, right? You need to want to fight forward. So your brain has a process to get rid of some of that stuff. But we, because of the society we live in, are constantly focused on negative. If you can do 1 minute a day of gratefulness and gratitude, you will change your whole mindset, and also stop watching the news.
Sure.
I'd like to mention the value of this type of practice in young people starting early on. So the week before Thanksgiving in my classroom, I'd stop my lessons a couple minutes early, and I would say to the kids, okay, everybody's getting a 3 today. You did great. You want a 3+? Here's the challenge. And I sit at the xylophone and I'm just playing something steady. And I invite them, I say, close your eyes. And when you have something in your mind that you're thankful for, I want you to open your eyes. And if you feel like sharing it with the class, I want you to raise your hand. And if you feel like getting up next to me and singing it, come on up next to me and sing it, and you'll get a 3+, which is the best grade I can get. And 2 years ago, because it didn't happen last year, it would be, I'm thankful for my latest video game console. I'm thankful for more material things and silly things and superficial things. Maybe not from a kid's point of view, but from what I'm trying to get out of them,
Right.
And then this year, I'm thankful for just the most sweet things. I'm thankful for my school. I'm thankful for my family. I'm thankful for God. I'm thankful for a lot of pets. A lot of kids have gotten pets since the last time I've done this.
Yay!
And it's just so great. And I'm grateful to hear their singing voices again, because that's really been absent in my life. We're spread out. They're up far away with me. I have the door open and all. And I don't even give them a note. I don't give them any guidance at all. I want it to come from them in the most raw form. I just play a little something to keep us together. But any teachers listening out there, you don't have to be a music teacher. Just do that. It's such a cool activity, and it really sparked a lot of conversation. I just threw away the lesson book after that, and then we just had a nice talk. It was just cool.
Pete, I love that.
Yeah.
And I love that you've just touched on, it does not matter how old they are.
Right.
Everyone can be grateful. You can ask a 2-year-old who barely has any words. They may not fully understand the concept, and they're going to tell you, they're grateful for mommy because that's the word they know. But they are going to be able to tell you something. A 5-year-old is going to be grateful for the ice cream cone that they got at lunchtime, right? Those are okay if that's the thing that they know. But teaching them that practice so that it becomes a part of their regular life, huge for when they get older.
But if it becomes more of a life practice, a lifelong practice, people could probably be a lot better off.
We all would, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say educational leaders too, try this with your staff. This month, I've been meeting with various stakeholders across the district, and we've been opening up with that, saying how thankful we are for them. Community members, whether it was a parent group, with principals, if it was with students or teachers. And then we ask them to share what they're grateful for. And it's just a nice little space to kind of open up before a meeting or before you leave. Crystal, you're our book buddies. So do you have some books that you'd recommend? Yay!
Oh my
she's already got the
goodness.
list. Let me get my pen ready.
This one was hard. I will tell you, this one was hard because books on gratitude are abundant, but books on gratitude that actually give you skills for gratitude versus just be grateful for everything in your life is difficult, right? And just telling someone, especially someone who's going through a difficult time, like be grateful. It could be worse. Not only are you negating what they're going through, but you're basically telling them they're not allowed to have the feelings that they're having. And so I wanted books that actually give people practices and have some logic and science behind them. So the first book is Living Life as a Thank You, and it's by Mary Beth Sammons. And I can send you guys links to all of these if you want. And the reason I picked this book is because she talks in this book about having a gratitude toolkit. And what she means by that is creating things for yourself that on those really hard days you can look at, you can go to remind yourself that it's not all bad. And one of the things she talks about is this sort of dream board. She calls it a gratitude dream board. And I don't know about you guys, but I love vision boards for things that I want to come true in the future. So hers is a gratitude version of that for things that are yet to come in your life. I'm going to have grandkids. I'm grateful that I'm going on a vacation next year. I'm grateful for, the sun rising tomorrow because it hasn't risen in 3 days, whatever it happens to be. I thought this was genius when I read this book, because a lot of times when we create vision boards, especially, we create them with the hopes and dreams that we have, not with the things that we know are coming in the future that we're grateful for, but maybe it's 12 months down the road. So we really don't think about it that often. I don't know about you guys, because some of you went to Florida this past weekend and I was not there, but I can tell you my actual official booked trip for Florida isn't till December of next year. And I'm already grateful for that. It's a whole year from now, but I'm already grateful for that. So I loved the idea in this book. And of course, she talks about a whole bunch of other things that are really tangible for people to do. Fantastic book. The next one is called Thanks: How Practicing Gratitude Can Make You Happier. And this is by Dr. Robert Emmons. And I love him because he studies gratitude. He is one of the researchers that is my go-to for gratitude whenever studies are coming out. He talks in this book about how gratitude not only changes our mindset, but how gratitude can change our physiology, because he does that research. So how heart rates can be improved by gratitude, how stress is reduced, how your body changes based on those things, how you can build neural connections through gratitude that maybe you didn't have before. He has a practical guide and some really good step-by-step things. If people have never practiced gratitude before, simple starting places. I'm grateful for this cup of coffee that I get to make myself or that I get to buy at Starbucks. Simple things. Love his book, love all of his work. He has like 10 other books as well. Like FYI, if you're somebody who wants to learn about gratitude, he's my go-to guy. The next book, which I think I may have mentioned on a previous podcast, is called The Little Book of, and I'm going to pronounce this wrong, but I believe it's Hoga. It's by the Happiness Research Institute. And I swear, for some reason, it's just stuck in my brain every time I think gratitude, because this book is about a way of life, being grateful for not just where you are in the moment, but where you can be, the life that you choose to create, the spaces that you cultivate, creating cozy moments, those sorts of things. So those would be my top 3 if I had to pick 3, which you kind of asked me to do.
That's amazing. I'm so excited. I wrote those down. So here's a question we started doing this season. So I don't think we've done it with you yet, Crystal. And that is there a teacher, a coach, or a mentor, or someone growing up that inspired you or that you want to give a little shout out to? We like to kind of open the space and hear who's a good influence on you.
So you forewarned me this question was coming, and I have to tell you, Erin, I had a really hard time picking just one. And here's the reason. I'm someone who grew up in an environment where we moved 2 to 3 times a year. So I went to 2 or 3 different schools every single school year. which for me meant I really wasn't making friends the way most people make friends, especially in grade school, because we moved so often. But what I was doing was connecting with my instructors, my teachers, my professors. And so that carried forward for most of my life, even into university. So I can tell you in what we call middle school, which is grade 6, 7, and 8 here, I had a teacher, and she wasn't a specific teacher, like a gym teacher or a science teacher. Her name was Mrs. Daw, and she did pretty much everything. She taught us gym, she taught us sex ed, she occasionally subbed in the science class. Like, she was just the be all end all. And the reason that I connected with her is because she was one of the very first people, teacher or not, to treat me like a real human being. I was a young girl, we moved around a lot. She took the time to listen to me. She took the time to invest in me when I needed someone to see me. And I will forever be grateful for her because she changed my life. So much so that when I graduated and was no longer going to be at the school she was at, I wrote her a really detailed letter about how she had changed my life. Mind blowing how amazing this woman was. And I have since tried to find her on social media and I cannot. So I don't know if she's just one of those people that is not on social media, but if anybody knows her, she was at Central Senior Public School. Shout out Southern Ontario. She was amazing, but she's not the only one. You know, when I was in college and I was studying addictions work, I had a professor named Stephanie, and she insisted we call her Stephanie, who literally was able to look at me one day and know that I was going through a mental health crisis and that I needed instant help. Like, not just I needed someone to talk to, I instantly needed medical intervention. People like that are just like, I can't even put into words how much that woman changed my life, because she noticed something no one else had noticed at the time. When I got to university, Dr. Book was my criminal psychology professor. And in university, it can be hard to connect with professors depending on the kind of teacher or instructor they are. Fred knows this because of the space that he's in. She took the time to actually listen to what I had wanted in my career. And then she took the time to sit down with me and say, that's not going to happen. And here's the reason why. It has nothing to do with you personally. It's not about your skill. It's not about how you're going to be able to, function in the world. It's about the law here in the place that you live. And the law will never let you do what you want to do. She burst my bubble, changed my whole life because I took a totally different path after that. But she took the time and invested in that conversation. So there have been a lot of teachers, and I could probably think of, half a dozen more at least. Teachers are this wonderful gateway for young people because you're an adult who sees us, but doesn't treat us as children. You see us as people, as individuals. And if you're a teacher and you're struggling right now to see whether or not you're making a difference, I guarantee you are. There is one student, whether they're your specific student or maybe a student of someone else, there is one student who you've connected with in your life. You have literally changed their life and they are alive today because of you. And that is what matters.
That's beautifully said. Beautifully said. Oh, I'm so glad I asked you that question. Okay, guys, TPR, now it's time for us to give maybe one takeaway. I don't know about you guys, but I have a few, but one big takeaway or some kind of spark or something you're inspired by our very own Crystal Steers. Who should go first?
I love that you always ask that. Although I will say a couple of weeks ago, you did surprise me because I was listening and you did not go with Fred first. And I was like, wait a minute, did I hear that right? And I'm rewinding on the podcast to be sure.
Yep. I got to keep on my toes.
That was a cut. Yeah, I was all geared up for it too. I'm like,
Right.
That's why I did it. Okay, Fredo, tell us yours.
You know what? It's one that's really just, there was a lot. Chris said so much that was great tonight, and that's why we love having you here. Thank you. So I'm hoping that everybody listening to this, their wheels are turning and they're thinking in a grateful mode there. But most importantly, it was right at the beginning. Trust your ability. There was there's so many different layers to that, and you spoke about trusting your ability. I think in a way that tends to be how we view our own inabilities. Like, so we don't trust ourselves. We don't think we can follow through on something. And when reality is we're ready for it, we're prepared for it. Now we just got to execute on it. And that needs to be reminded of teachers and probably students too, the older students especially, that you can do these things. You can, get through these challenges. You don't have to flail open or lay on your back like a turtle, just waiting for someone to kind of put you upright again. Learn to trust yourself. And maybe in a way, that's what you should be grateful for, is that you've been given a gift, and that it's your obligation to exercise that gift. Is that the right word? Apply that gift. I think that's the better way to put it. But I like that. Trust your ability.
Great. Letitia?
All the notes, all the notes. But I think overall for me, what I loved most that you gave us tonight was permission. Permission was woven through everything, right? It's about what works for you. Make all the plans you want, but be okay with things falling apart. And, for teachers, that's so hard for us. It's so hard because the expectations that are put on us to be perfect, to know everything, to be able to do everything, there's just so much pressure. And so my big takeaway tonight is just that you gave us permission, that it's okay to practice gratitude the way you feel works for you. So thank you tonight for giving all of us permission to just be. So that's my big takeaway. Permission.
Nice. And to watch squirrels.
Right.
That's still a good one. That's a good one. Okay, Pete, how about you?
Crystal, are you familiar with a musical called Come From Away?
Yes, very familiar.
So
That's
is
actually
there-
not too far from where I am now.
That's where I was going. Okay, that's what I wanted to know. So, what a beautiful part of the world, and even more beautiful people live in this location of Nova Scotia, correct? Right?
So actually, what
Isn't
you're
that where it
talking
takes place?
about, it actually, so
Newfoundland?
the East Coast
Newfoundland,
here,
right.
exactly. The East Coast here is kind of islandy.
Okay.
So Nova Scotia is one part, technically not an island, but only attached to land by a very small portion. You then cross the ocean to Newfoundland and Labrador.
Well, you've made that area even better by being there, and you just have a way with words that just make me glow inside. So I'm so grateful that you're our friend and you come on
Yes.
with us. I loved. By the way, if you guys don't know, Come From Away, all listeners and all, it's a beautiful, heartfelt, so well written musical about some really really sad stuff. But they do it in such a beautiful way, and it really uplifts you. So check out Come From Away. It's a really great show.
It's on like
Broadway?
Prime or Apple or something
It's
now.
not. They filmed it.
Oh,
Is it
Apple
available
TV.
now?
Yep.
Very cool. Yeah, check it out. Check it out. Check it out. So what I wrote down, something hit me early. It was your definition of home. I've never heard it said like this, but
Mhm.
home is the feeling I create with my chosen family.
Yes.
So important with Thanksgiving around the corner. Very, very beautiful. So that will be on my plaque tonight. That's I love that one. So thank
I
you.
love that that's what you chose, especially because you guys, so we in Canada have already done Thanksgiving. Ours happens in October. But because you guys are facing Thanksgiving, one of the things that happens around the holidays is people who don't have anyone start to feel more isolated and alone.
Mhm.
And the holidays isn't necessarily about your biological family.
Right.
It's about the people you choose to spend your life with.
Right.
Those are the people that you want to be spending time with, that you want to be grateful for, that you want to celebrate. That's the whole purpose. So I love that you picked that. Sorry, go ahead, Aaron.
No, that's
Oh,
thank you.
I'm just sitting here thinking about when the border, because I've always wanted to go there, Crystal. So when the borders are back and open, I think we need to get the TPR bus together.
Our van, school
Deal.
bus.
Yeah, we got it. We got to drive it up and come visit you. I wrote down something I think similar to what Fred was talking about. You said, and I quote, "We like easy and forget we can do hard things."
That's nice.
That was great.
I don't know about you guys, and maybe this is a weird correlation, or maybe it's not a good one, but driving home on Monday from Orlando up here, there were some angry people on the road. Pete, did you notice some angry people?
Oh, we talked about it. Yeah. All
And-
over. Yeah.
And I have to say, I think part of it is because everyone does want things so easy. And it mostly happened when we were stuck in bad traffic. And yes, that's frustrating. And yes, I want it to be easy to just get home and not have to deal with other cars. But sometimes that's just where you are. And it's a matter of what you take in that moment. Are you going to use that moment to be bitter and angry and frustrated and put out that negative energy? Or are you going to take that time and say, okay, well, I'm stuck here. What can I do with it? Listen to a great podcast, put the music on. I rolled the window down. It was beautiful outside and chose to enjoy it. I know that's a strange correlation, but I just think, especially as we're getting ready for the holidays, we all just expect things to be easy to get into a restaurant, easy to go shopping and get the things that you need. But, take a deep breath. Sometimes things aren't that easy. Sometimes life isn't easy, but you can get through it. And I really appreciated that message today, Crystal.
Oh, well, listen, I have all kinds of takeaways from tonight. One of which is I still have 5 sticky notes of things we didn't talk about. So I guess at some point I'll have to come back to TPR.
Oh my gosh, Crystal, thank you so much. That's
thoughtful.
beautiful. So thoughtful. I love it. And you're modeling what you're speaking about.
Yeah.
Hey,
Well,
T,
and that's the thing, right? Like, I think, especially as adults, we often think to ourselves, like, I'm not creative. I can't do that thing. You don't have to do that thing for anybody but yourself. Or if you want to do that thing and just randomly gift it to people, you can do that too. It doesn't have to be a career. It doesn't have to be something that makes you money unless you want it to be. Like, get creative, throw it out when you're done if you want. Whatever works for you. Like, there are no rules. Just do what makes you happy.
and I like that you're using material that's just there anyways. So that's great.
Mhm.
Repurpose.
We really hope you enjoyed that episode on gratitude. And from Aaron and Pete and myself, we wish you all a happy Thanksgiving this year. And we'll see you live.